You may find this hard to believe, but I've actually been out of the dating game for a while now. I know, ladies. I know, it's sad, isn't it? It didn't occur to me that this left-wing takeover of everything in the economy and culture is a very real issue for conservative singles looking for a date who isn't crazy, somebody who's not a trans member of Antifa that also works at Planned Parenthood. Apparently hard to find. But my producer, who will remain anonymous, alerted me to this problem and showed me what conservative singles have to deal with. These are some actual screenshots sent in by an acquaintance of my producer trying to use a well-known dating app. First, you've got to figure out your gender. Quote, pick which one describes you. Intersex man, trans masculine, man and non-binary, cis. I don't know what half of these mean. Then there is the lovely potential match, a trans and queer law student who will give you extra points if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race. Well, I'm out. This next candidate says, quote, what would be super hot is if you donated to an abortion fund of your choosing and slide into my DMs with your receipt. Not lifting a finger otherwise. No. Then there's a non-binary, trans, feminine, transgender, and a bunch of other things person who also happens to be married, but non-monogamous. Okay, that's good. And then there's this person who just asks, please respect that I'm a pre-op trans. So there's a lot of normal options out there for the average traditional values-leaning conservative. Joining me now is Daniel Huff. He was an advisor in the Trump White House and a former counsel to the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. Now with the backing by Peter Thiel, Huff co-founded a new dating app called The Right Stuff, which launches next month. That's insane. Is that really what it's like all the time for conservatives?
I actually think it's worse because the examples you gave were of antagonism against conservatives by users of the app. But you also have antagonism by the platform itself. And I'll give you a couple of examples. For a period of time in 2020, Bumble, a major dating app, one of the most popular, required that users affirm support for Black Lives Matter in order to use the app.
Wow.
And this was an absolute requirement. It wasn't, note something here. It was literally, there was a landing page. You had to press a button. You couldn't get past it except that you did. So that's a very clear example of the platform bias. Another example, you have Hinge, very popular. Hinge is constantly, to this day, pressing users to add their pronouns to their profiles. And in fact, we like to say in our app that you get profiles without pronouns. Another more subtle example is that many of these profiles, the apps are designed in a way you can add stickers showing interests. So for example, I like to hike, I like to kayak, but there's also political ones, except all the political ones are left wing. So it's, I'm a trans ally, I support BLM, I'm pro-choice. There's no sticker for I'm pro-life. There's no sticker for Second Amendment rights. There's none of that. And so you have the antagonism, the discrimination against conservatives, not just from the fellow users, but from the platforms themselves. And the one other thing I'd add is that you were giving anecdotal examples, excellent ones that are represented. And I give a lot of talks on these things. And everywhere I go, people are telling me stories that happened to me, it happened to my sister, it happened to my friend. But there's also, in addition, empirical evidence. A study was done by Axios in 2020, and they found among college students that 72% of liberals say they would not date a conservative. The reverse isn't true. Similarly, AEI did a study finding that I think 69% of liberals would not want a conservative to join their family. So you have anecdotal evidence, and you have empirical evidence, and you have discrimination against conservatives, not just by users on apps, but by the platforms themselves.
So what was it that originally brought this to your attention? Was it somebody else? Are you single or were you single? What was it?
I was, and my co-founders were, and I think it was a combination of personal experience, anecdotal experience, and the empirical evidence that I cited. So it sort of happened to us. We asked around about it and found that it was a wider spread problem, and then found empirical evidence as well. And I will just say that I think I may hold the record for the shortest date ever. When I was working at the White House, I was at a place called Mission in Washington, D.C. Woman came to meet me that I actually met on an app and sat down, got a really nice glass of wine. She was pressing me for what I did. And I told her, well, I work for President Trump in the White House. Well, I said that and she upped and left faster than we got out of Afghanistan.
What?
And the net result of that was that I had this untouched cup of wine. So I called a friend of mine. I said, "What are you doing? Why don't you come by? We'll have a cup of wine and talk some things over." So it was fun, but it also really impressed upon me that this was a real need. And then later, when John and I had left the White House and we were thinking about what to do, we looked into this a lot more and found that there was a real opportunity and a real need.
All right. So tell me what your thoughts are, because conservatives will date somebody, that doesn't, I don't want to be in lockstep with somebody and it's, us against the world. But talk to me about your thoughts on continuing to divide us. There is a product that is needed, and so you're doing the right thing to serve the public. But how do we get out of this to where we're not just half this way, half that way? Or is it too late for that?
Well, I think about that quite a bit, and I think you're right to ask the question. But I think the short answer is that it has been mathematically shown that the way to the optimal solution, the Nash equilibrium to a repeat game, is a tit for tat strategy. So what I mean by that is, if you figure out there's two sides and one side can cheat and one side can play fair, they look at this mathematically, and you can actually prove that the best thing to do when the other side is cheating over and over is to adopt a tit for tat strategy. And you do that for a little bit, and then in the long run, the other side learns not to cheat. So yes, it's regrettable that we have to do that, but I do think that the way to respond right now is to build those other things, because the left kept saying, "Oh, you don't like it? Build your own." So, all right, well, we'll build our own, and we're going to make it not just as good, we're going to make it better. And once we do that for a little bit of time, I think that could hopefully bring everybody back in a united way. We don't want this to continue, but again, as I said, I think mathematically it has been proven that the best way to deal with a situation like this is to do it back to the people who started, do it well, do it for a little bit, and then in the long run, it all evens out in the Nash equilibrium.
Are you having any problems with, cloud service or anything like that? Have you had that start yet or been threats of it?
So what we've done is we've actually taken great pains to be as independent as possible, to have as few dependencies on cloud service as we can. And so far, that's served us well. So I think so far, fingers crossed, we've been in a good spot. But I think conservatives overall never expected that we would be in this position. So you really have to think what might happen, what could go wrong. And again, that's where we've really tried as hard as possible to eliminate as many dependencies as possible, so we're not in a situation where we're caught flat-footed.
So tell me the one thing that sets you apart, because you're not the only one that tries to appeal to conservatives, but you probably are the best funded one with Peter Thiel behind you. What makes you different?
Well, I think that does matter. No one's really ever tried to make a high quality, well-funded app with a dedicated team. Those are, I think, the three things that really help us get to where we're going to be. The things that also set us apart, there's two, right? So John McEntee, our founder, was at the White House, pretty well known, tremendous conservative network. When you deal with an app, one of the most important things is driving adoption, and he's well positioned to do that, far more well positioned than many others. The second thing, which is probably of even greater importance, is for too long, conservatives have been playing catch up with liberal tech. So, they have YouTube and we have Rumble, they have Twitter, we have Truth Social, various other ones. What we need to do is to actually just get ahead. We want to not just catch up, we want to create a superior product. And we're able to do that by actually adding features that no one else has, which is something, again, that sets us apart. As one example only, we have something that we've created called Post Date. Whereas a lot of these apps have you sitting at home swiping, what we want to do is get people out on fun dates. So we've a section of the app where you can go on and post something fun. Hey, I've got 2 tickets to the Red Sox game, first base line, who wants to go? And other people can see that and they can say, hey, I want to go. I'm a big Sox fan. Look at me. They can take videos, they can send messages, and the individual who posted the date gets to pick who he or she wants to take. And so that's, again, a great way of getting people out on fun dates rather than just sitting at home swiping and sending messages. And we've got a lot more creative things like that coming. And I think that's another thing which distinctively sets us apart.
Well, best of luck. And thank you, Daniel, for all of the hard work that you guys have been put in, and also the money that you guys have put into all of this to help create a parallel economy. It's needed. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And folks can go to joinrightstuff.com to sign up. And I just want to quickly close by saying I saw you speak at CPAC, I think it was 2 years ago, and displaying your historical artifacts as part of your speech, the things you'd purchased. It was a tremendous speech. I still remember it. I really appreciate it. And so it was really a great honor to be here. And I don't mean that in a perfunctory way.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.